All right, now, so this came up for WWE. I'm like, I heard on somebody else's podcast, Stephen Larson going in Raw. But it was basically talking about, and I was like talking about characters, and it was talking about which one is more important of characters and storylines. And I was like, I believe we've even talking about Triple H, talking about this as well. But it really made me think of which one is actually more important. And you can sort of apply this not to just WWE but also AEW as well of the height level of each one. Now you can say really for both of them, for both companies, that when they have sort of reached the top of whatever they needed to reach, it was a storyline involved. I was like, obviously with WWE, it was the bloodline, and I was like, also I would say to that, Punk and Drew, and you can say Rhea, Judgment Day, Damian Priest, Rhea, Judgment Day, Liv Morgan, that also that whole thing. AEW, as I was like, will obviously be the Death Rider thing. Uh, in all of this, I was like, Tony Storm, so like her storyline is a journey. Um, I was like, I feel like you can also talk about Mercedes Monet and the belt collector, even though people got different opinions on that. Um, but their foundation, really, to be honest, because while everybody wants a good storyline, I was like, look, some of that stuff happened by accident. Some of that stuff takes a lot to craft. That at the end of the day, that while you're doing that, you're doing mini feuds, battles, and all this other things. Just who wants the title? You're really relying on your characters. So in the end, characters are really the best. I mean, of the two, like that gets you by nearly every day. And going back, I was like, now this is where I'm going to go more with WWE than anything. Is where I think that the whole problem, like how there was a lull or whatever, and everybody's like, oh, storylines and stuff like that. But we had characters, and I was like, nothing bigger to prove that than this war games that you're sort of just putting together. And you also think about, I was like, but also WrestlePalooza. WrestlePalooza was really relied upon character. Did not go fully well. But this war game, especially the end in the Raw, where it's just like, oh man, Brock Lesnar, CM Punk, Cody Rhodes. Oh my God, the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns. Even though y'all don't really like him anymore, Jay Uso. I was like, you got a star-studded amount. I was like, a really most hated guy, Logan Paul. I was like, Drew. I was like, everybody loves Drew. I was like, it's the characters. And to me, where I think that AEW has, I was like, gotten by with their characters, and also I was like, also the wrestling, because I was like, I think in this is that what makes it different. I was like different for each company is that WWE needs characters and storyline, whereas AEW has characters and wrestling that the storyline can just come about, whereas WWE needs that as a key piece because while the wrestling is good, it's not the thing. The story is what will make the wrestling over there in WWE. And that's where I think they failed at is not necessarily. I'm not even saying necessarily that the like the wrestling. That's not what I'm talking about here. Is the characters because a lot of their characters could be a lot bigger than what they actually are. I was like, for as much as I defended Jay Uso and even him getting to the point of where he's at, Jay Uso, if the capitalization of him getting a title would have happened in a earlier or at a different period of time, or maybe if it wasn't against Gunther in that way, people wouldn't have the backlash that they necessarily would, even though they might still be like he's being shoved down our throats. It might be looked at differently if it happened earlier, or if the lead up to it was a lot differently. I was like, LA Knight had to been cashed in. I was like, had to been able to cash in on any of his stuff. While he had been in main event matches and for the title, he hadn't gotten a title. which would elevate LA Knight even to a crazier peak. Drew McIntyre, for all that he's done, he could be even bigger if he would have been able to get a title in any of that time. I was like, and he just hasn't. I was like, hell, if you want to talk about Cody Rhodes, if Cody Rhodes, after I was like pretty much this year, and you want to even sort of say a little bit of last year, had some better, I was like, more engaging feuds, I would say. I was like, I mean, and he's crazy popular himself. I was like, Liv, she's been hurt. I was like, Rhea, I think that I was like, I think pretty much where she's at is where she's at. I was like, they did a good job with EO. I'm like, Bianca's hurt. Jade, it looks like they're working their way into that situation right now. I was like, Maxine Dupree, I feel like they should have capitalized on her earlier, but hey, they're finally doing it. And I was like, so it was able to work. But somebody like Julia, they did, like, with Stephanie McMahon, they was able to do it. Julia, who was coming in just as red hot, I was like, that they ain't do nothing with her that they should have. Roxanne Perez, hey, they was able to throw her into Judgment Day, but she is tempered down as well. She should have immediately been able to come in and win one of those mid-card titles. I was like, Ivy Niles, along with the Creed brothers, like, yes, Chad Gable's been hurt and all, but I was like, they were building her up to a whole thing. Nothing. Penta, I was like, he's just a cool guy there, but guess what? If they would have capitalized earlier on putting him, giving him a mid-card title early, or putting him in the main event, Penta be, I was like, and he's crazy over. But what I'm saying is that I was like, there's been chances to propel these people higher than maybe they would actually really be. If Otis and Chad Gable would have had the blow off match, first of all, earlier, if it would have been for the title, Otis would have been now looked at as like, oh man, he could win a mid-card title and you wouldn't really second guess it. You might not want it for long or whatever, how everybody feels about a comedy character, but he could be there and you wouldn't really second guess it. But now, it's like, if he just, you ain't really vibing with Otis and them like that. I was like, Bo Dallas and the Wyatts had a chance there. Then that's why and so that's why I feel like it's really like while characters is important, especially in WWE, the reason it feels sort of low is because they haven't struck on their characters when they needed to, and that would save them in a lot of time versus the storyline that they're not putting together. That if you're not going to put together the storyline, then it was like, okay, cool. I just want to see the cool people that I want to see do some cool matches and stuff like that, and you don't see them. Or now it's at the point where you're like, what do I was like, do I really care anymore? And I almost feel like how I was like, I only got a partial of this, but how everybody was like, Finn Balor, Finn Balor, Finn Balor, Finn Balor, Finn Balor. I like Finn Balor. You don't have any other feelings towards him about anything else. You might like what he does with doing with Judgment Day and all this other stuff, but I was like that rage of that heat that you want, like, yo, I wanted to see in with the title and all. It's not there anymore, and that's where it's dangerous with the character. That's like, you got him at a good safe spot, but at some point that all goes away, and I was like, look, I don't know with this, as far as the fact that maybe this is what it's going to be until we always get closer to WrestleMania season. But we all thought that the characters would be hitting a little higher than where they're at, and a lot of them are just at the spot of like, cool, I like the matches. What is this for? Who is this for? Cool. Yeah, if you're not going to give me the story, give me the cool characters that you're not going to do anything with. Anyway, enough me rambling. What do you think? What's more important, character or storyline? I would like for either company, but mostly for WWE. Do you also think that they blew it on a lot of characters that would be able to buy time until they come up with a storyline? Cause that was like that sort of was I was getting at as well too. But anyway, let me know what you think. Till then, peace.